special discounts and sales on top of it right now at theyellowshowstore.com. Stay.
QS 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition.
Yes,
We got
there we go.
Zo, even kijken. Net even geslapen. En nu proberen we even kijken live te gaan naar...
One engine waiting for temperatures to kind of get to a zone that we want them to on one of the engines on the booster, on the super heavy booster, getting ready for its second ever flight. We'll just continue to hold. Again, we can hang out here for several minutes. We held for a while on the first attempt last time and then cleared it, and then we triggered a different issue on the ground side.
But again, this is exactly what it's for. This gives us the best chances at success.
And the clock is rolling.
There we go. There we go.
All right. T-minus 30. Let's listen in. Watch that first flight proven super heavy. Get ready to take off from Starbase.
Oké, als het goed is, dan gaan we de lucht in.
Oh.
Oeps, 41 seconden. Teruggezet.
We did have a hold, and looks like the clock jumped back to T-minus 40 seconds.
All right, so we jumped out. I did not see the deflector go off. So hopefully we were right at around that T-minus 10 second mark.
And if we were before that T-minus 10 second mark, we do have the ability to recycle, as we mentioned earlier, back to T-minus 40 seconds.
So it looked like this time it was a ground side issue. We're taking a look at this real quick. So again, we're back at T-minus 40. We're gonna hold for a little bit. We are still not scrubbed for the day. Give them a couple of minutes to work through this. Again, we can hang out at T-minus 40 for several minutes. Eventually, we start looking at your bulk temperatures and all of your propellant on board the vehicle. We're not actively replenishing the propellant on board Super Heavy and Starship, and so you don't have essentially forever to hang out before things start to warm up. And you do want to make sure your temperature's in a really stable range for a healthy startup on Raptor engines. So they're going to work through this issue. We can continue to hold here for a couple of minutes. What's launch without a little extra added excitement?
We kunnen hier een paar minuten wachten.
All right, so cumulatively, we've held for a little over 3 minutes between the two holds. Again, this is a ground side issue on our tower. The techs are looking through the data right now to see if it's something that we can either work through or if it would cause us to have to stand down. So we're continuing to hang out with them, holding at T-minus 40.
Maar alles is volgeladen.
If you're just joining us, we
Ready to
did
go.
initially
Er zijn
hold
wat kleine
at T-minus
probleempjes.
40 seconds. We continued the count, but recycled before we got to T-minus 10 seconds. And so we're back at a hold at T-minus 40 seconds. Waiting for more information. The team is checking out to see if we can continue today.
Maybe we krijgen we een abort. Maar laten we hopen dat alles toch nog goed komt.
And we're continuing to hold here at T-minus 40 seconds. We've been holding for just about 5 minutes now as the teams evaluate if we can continue to T0 for Flight 9.
All right, so it sounds like we're coming to a resolution. All right, so we are getting to a resolution. We're going to reset everything.
Kan ieder moment gebeuren.
All right, so we're going to see the clock. It is now rolling.
Ja.
There we go.
We saw an issue with that quick disconnect to the ship. There is a chance that automation will kick us out again if we encounter the same issue. But for now, the clock is rolling. We'll see if we pass around that T-minus 10 second mark.
Ja hoor, komt die 10. Oh nee. Jawel, 7, 6.
T plus
Booster and
40
ship,
seconds.
avionics
It's
power,
one
telemetry
hell of a
nominal.
sight from here. We see it arcing right over top of us. We see 33 out of 33 Raptor engines lit on Super Heavy as it starts to ascend skyward. Coming up on maximum aerodynamic pressure, then only about a minute and a half until we get into hot staging.
Wow, Dan, that was incredible.
Next cue is het moment
We
wanneer
could
de
feel
meeste
the
spanning
building
op de raket.
shaking here, feel the vehicle's power. Now we're just about a minute away from shutting down those engines on the booster. Again, this booster is flying for its second time today.
Deze booster
All right,
is
so hot
al een
staging
keer gebruikt.
coming
Dit is
up.
voor de tweede keer dat de booster
A little
niet
under a
gaat.
minute.
Deze booster zou ook in de
We're going to see
oceaan,
all but the 3 center
landen.
engines turn off on the booster. So our version of MECO, most engines cut off. And then just a few seconds later, hoping to see 6 engines ignite on ship to push it away. All right, hot staging, about 30 seconds.
Hard staging is het moment dat ze gaan ontkoppelen.
And definitely keep an eye on which way the booster flips. First ever directional flip we're going for today. Should flip straight up. See those engines powering down?
Booster engine cutoff. Ship ignition. Stage separation.
Incredible flip by Super Heavy Booster, and you can see those 6 engines, those 3 engines on the ship ignited.
6 healthy Raptors running on ship, on its way to space. Peek that engine view. Booster doing the boost back. Chris, how's it looking over there in Hawthorne, man?
Alles ziet er goed uit.
It is looking
Chamber pressure is nominal.
It is looking absolutely incredible here in Hawthorne. As we said, 6 healthy engines on ship. We've got 13 out of 13 engines on the booster. Now down to those 3, which is what we expect in the final moments of the boost back burn. Now, as a reminder, we are not recovering the Super Heavy booster today. We are instead going to do
booster
some...
boost back, shutdown.
And there we had a good shutdown of the boost back burn. Next up will be the jettison of that hot stage
Ship
ring.
avionics power and telemetry nominal.
Great call out there that everything looking nominal aboard the Super Heavy vehicle, which is returning to Earth, and we're going to be doing some experiments with it, including a higher angle of attack re-entry, as well as some engine tests as it gets closer to the Gulf. We are, again, because of these tests not recovering it, we are sending it to the Gulf on purpose to do those tests. But again, you see the booster on the left-hand side of your screen. You see ship with 6 healthy engines continuing its ascent to its planned suborbital trajectory. Everything going very well so far for Starship's 9th flight. Now 4 minutes, 15 seconds in. Great views from inside of the aft engine area of ship there, looking at those 3 sea level and 3 Raptor engines on the right-hand side of your screen. The booster doing its LOX dump, that liquid oxygen dump. So because we don't need some of that liquid oxygen propellant in its tanks, we vent that propellant out to lessen the booster's mass as it comes in for its landing. Just absolutely gorgeous views watching these 2 vehicles do their respective things in the skies over Texas here today. And Dan, we're approaching the 5-minute mark into the flight. Super Heavy is descending rapidly. What can we expect here in the next few minutes as it does its atmospheric tests?
Yeah, now as we had talked about, Super Heavy might not have a very smooth ride down. We're going to be putting it through this higher angle of attack. So we're kind of pitching it up a tiny bit, increasing drag. We've done this in wind tunnels. We've done this in computer modeling. It shows that sometimes the control isn't great, but only one way to really prove it out, and that's to get real-world data. So here comes Super Heavy. It should be igniting for its landing burn in just about 40 seconds from now.
And we are going to relight 13 engines, then bring that down to 3 engines. As we talked about earlier, we will be intentionally shutting down. We will be shutting down one of those 3 center engines intentionally to push the limits of the Super Heavy booster.
Ship Raptor, chamber pressure is nominal.
And continuing to see 6 healthy engines on the ship. 3 sea level and 3 vacuum engines still ignited as the Super Heavy booster is making its way back down to Earth.
We can see those grid fins doing some heavy work.
Hier gaan de
ignited for a landing burn.
Niet aan. Dat ziet er dan vreemd uit. Dat, nu niks. Verbinding is slecht.
It may have ended with that landing burn.
Landing burn ended.
Does look like we lost telemetry from the booster once we started into that landing burn. Did you hear confirmation that the booster did demise? So the booster's flight ending before it was able to get through landing burn, but again, we are not bringing that back. We were expecting it to make a hard splashdown in the Gulf. We were getting live data back the entire time through that high angle of attack flight, so that was something that was really vital for us to get during this reuse.
We zijn nu al verder
First
dan
reflighted booster in the books. All right, ship.
flight 7 en
There's
8.
about 2 minutes left.
Ziet er heel goed uit.
Yeah, in about 2 minutes, we expect all 6 Raptor engines to shut down. That will be SECO, basically second engine or second stage engine shut off. And these are some incredible views, Dan, from the aft end of the ship. Watching as the engines stay ignited with the Earth in the background.
Dummy satellieten gaan we die toch
As always,
zien,
the Starship avionics team, the techs. I think we just heard the booster. But all right, we got about a minute left into this burn. All eyes definitely on ship
ze de booster
as we get through the final stages into its ascent. We're expecting it to start to cut those engines off in about 45 seconds.
Ongeveer in 50 seconden gaan de motoren van Starships uit.
All right, just about 30 seconds to go. We're in terminal guidance. In the final stages of this ascent burn. We did see shutdown of the Raptor engines. We do stagger these, so we do the Raptors first. Those 3 have shut down successfully. Sea levels still running.
Ja, dit ziet er heel goed uit. Geen brandpunten.
Ship engine cut off, the 3 most beautiful words in the English language.
And great call out that we had nominal insertion. An incredible flight test so far today. We reflew a super heavy booster for the very first time in 9 test flights. Ship is in its orbital trajectory. Again, it's going to remain suborbital for its mission today. But it ignited all 6 of its engines and made it all the way through SECO just now.
What a moment.
Incredible.
All right, but I mean, that's still lots to come for the rest of this flight. Per usual, I need to collect myself. Hey, Chris, how's it going over there in Hawthorne, man? How's everybody doing?
I think the elation and the excitement and the happiness at what we just saw achieved carried through across all of our sites. What an incredible view to see Starship back orbiting the Earth just under 11 minutes into our mission. Absolutely exciting to see all of this, and super pumped especially to see all of the team's hard work in action here today. As guaranteed, it has been an exciting evening so far for Starship's 9th test flight. We lifted off a little bit after 6:30 p.m. after a couple of holds that were triggered at the T-minus 40-second mark, but we were able to clear those, one on the Raptor, one on the tower, and we were able to lift off successfully from Starbase. 33 out of 33 Raptor engines lit on the Super Heavy. All 6 engines lit on ship, bringing it to its planned suborbital trajectory around Earth. But as Dan said, we've got a lot still coming up in our flight sequence. So coming up at about T plus 18 minutes, 26 seconds, we'll have the first deployment of simulated Starlink satellites planned from Starship. That will be followed at about T plus 37 minutes and 49 seconds by the relight of a single Raptor sea level engine in space. This is going to help us gather data on our ability to do a deorbit burn for future Starship missions that will go orbital. And then, of course, one of the biggest tests yet to come is the new heat shield modifications to Starship. And that'll start with re-entry into Earth's atmosphere at about the T plus 45-minute mark, which should take about 16, 18 minutes to...
Dus over 45 minuten komt hij weer terug, re-entry in de aarde. Dan gaan ze de het hitteschild testen met zijn nieuwe aanpassingen. Maar het meest legendarische wat we gaan krijgen is straks dat de dummy-satellieten hierboven, dat die klep open gaat en dat er een stuk of 10 dummy-satellieten uitgaan. En daar gaan ze waarschijnlijk hele mooie beelden van maken. Dat wordt iets legendarisch.
On that ship, seeing how the ship handles various flight conditions that we will need it to fly in as we look to one day soon bring ships back to Starbase for catch and reuse. Now, while there are payload simulators on Starship for deployment today, as we will see in a few minutes, the primary data and the primary payload for today is the data. And today, just like with Starship's previous test flights, that data is coming to us courtesy of our Starlink network. In fact, it is from Starlink that you are seeing these wonderful views of ship in space right now. So, and I can't wait to see Starlink really provide those epic views and that data transmission during reentry, which is very, very critical to getting that data during reentry. So, Dan and Jesse, it's been an exciting day so far. There's more to come as we get ready for Starship's first ever payload deploy. What can we expect next here in the next few minutes?
Thanks, Chris. Just going to reiterate, thank you to the Starlink team for these incredible views today. In a few minutes, Starship will deploy 8 Starlink simulators, similar in size to our next-generation Starlink satellites. The Starlink simulators will be on the same suborbital trajectory as Starship, meaning they will passively re-enter the atmosphere, just like Starship. With tests like these, we can see how Starship's payload deploy systems work in flight while ensuring that the simulator satellites pose no safety risk to people on Earth or for other satellites in orbit. Now, this also ensures that any parts of these simulator Starlink satellites that do survive re-entry splash down harmlessly in the middle of the Indian Ocean.
I said it again, I
can't wait to see Starship.
And then before we get there, though, we're going to have to open up that payload.
It's now on a path at least to get to the entry interface. Another whole thing is whether it survives afterward.
It's been an exciting day so far. There's more to come as we get ready for Starship's first ever payload deploy.
He said it was very critical because in case they lose a heat shield tile at a critical point on the ship, that tells me this is a test of they want to see if it can make it or not.
Views today.
I mean, it's 50-50 at that
in
point,
a few
right?
minutes, Starship will.
You got to figure if you have a crew
deploy 8 Starlink simulators, similar in size to our next-generation Starlink satellites. The Starlink simulators will be on the same suborbital trajectory as Starship, meaning they will passively re-enter the atmosphere, just like Starship. With tests like these, we can see how Starship simulator satellites pose no safety risk to people on Earth or for other satellites in orbit. Now, this also ensures that any parts of these simulator Starlink satellites that do survive re-entry splash down harmlessly in the middle of the Indian Ocean.
And then before we get there, though, we're going to have to open up that payload deploy door. So we've only ever done that one time before. Pretty sure it was Flight 3. Someone on the internet, please check me. But that was the only time we ever opened it. And we've had Starlink simulators on the last 2 flights, but we haven't gotten to this moment yet where we're able to open up the payload door and start deploying these. It's going to be from space, cool. And what we're able to stack do Starship payload bay, and we'll have potentially a couple of views. You saw one camera pop getting up. Live video back is really cool. Look inside of the payload bay of Starship.
Payload bay, daar zie je dus de satellite,
There's kind of 4 on either side, so they're sandwiched on top of each other, a stack of 4 right behind each other. And then we're going to pop the door open. It's on the right side of your screen, so we'll see that open up and then start firing those Starlink simulators out into space.
Let's go, Pez dispenser.
The payload door to open in
go on orbit-ish. I need a shirt that says
orbit-ish,
but
and then once that
okay,
payload
and then 3
door
minutes.
Open,
Yeah.
However, it does have
a couple
little
minutes
nerdy
later
details.
is
You
when
actually do see. We wrote out all the different orbital velocities.
Look at these views.
Those Starlink simulators.
That's
what a
view
great
right
view.
at the bottom of the stack. So should be able to see them kind of firing out from right there. So really cool. And eventually these are going to carry dozens of the next generation of Starlink satellite into space, and those are going to enable some truly insane things in terms of speeds from space and what we're able to do. Starlink's been really
20
great
times
for Starship,
Falcon 9.
Obviously.
Real quick,
360 degrees.
I did. He's talking about Starlink right now. I said this before the rocket launched. The capacity of data throughput that a single Starship launch can add to the Starlink constellation is 20 times that of a Falcon 9. So 20 Falcon 9 launches in one Starship launch.
Well in excess of 100 megabits per second of downlink, and a lot of that gets eaten up by video. We've got dozens of cameras across Starship. We added several more.
Now we are expecting
for this
the
flight,
payload
you
door
saw
to
open. We have
Astronaut.
essentially
any moment
360
now.
degrees.
So we're watching out for that.
Now for what about it for
Again, you're
Felix?
looking
Open
at
the
the
pod bay door
inside
now.
of Starship
Yep, do that.
as it's suborbital.
Wow, what a thriller,
most of what
everybody.
you're seeing floating around
We're
is
1.5
ice,
minutes
and the
away from
reason it's
payload
moving
deploy,
direction is
which would be
depending on
another
how
first.
the vehicle's venting, where
in
it's
the
venting
Starship
from,
program.
it
We
has
heard the
slight
door open was
orientation
in
changes.
progress.
Maybe the door's stuck.
We are expecting
It was
the
unable to
deployment
actuate
in
We are expecting the payload door
1826.
to
They are going to close
open
it back up.
any moment
Hal
now.
told me no.
So we're watching
Said,
out for
I'm
that.
sorry, Dan.
Again, you're looking at the
Can't do
inside.
that. Look. From Starship, they might cut in and out every once in a while, but should be pretty regular. We are in darkness right now, so might be a lot of black, but the cool part is when we get to reentry, it's going to be daytime.
Yes, and we did that on purpose so that we can get some live daytime views as ship is returning back to Earth.
All right, so we are going to take a break. Enjoy these views as we get them. Enjoy the tunes. We'll be back in a couple of minutes when we get ready to relight one of those Raptor engines on orbit. See you soon.
Au. Waarom geen beelden?
Of Starship as it
still have to prove out.
Again, for anybody who was watching out for the door to open, the door is basically here. I'm going to...
All right.
That was the door.
So it does look like we're not going to be able to deploy Starlinks today, but we should have pretty frequent views from Starship. They might cut in and out every once in a while, but should be pretty regular. We are in darkness right now, so
deployment.
Might be a lot of black, but the cool part is when we get to reentry, it's going to be daytime.
Yes, and we did that on purpose so that we can get some live daytime views as ship is returning back to Earth.
Geen mooie beelden
Right,
van de dummy satellites.
we are
helaas.
going to take a break. Enjoy these views as we get them. Enjoy the tunes. We'll be back in a couple of minutes when we get ready to relight one of those Raptor engines on orbit. See you soon.
Okay, everybody, are you still alive? This is amazing. Let's cut the audio there real quick. Exactly. There we go. Just fade that away. Okay, we are in space. We have reached 600,000 subscribers just on the side. It's incredible. Thank you so much for doing this with us. Everybody who's still here, we were supposed to see a payload deployment. This is the first test, though. As they said before, Flight 3, they had the door open. That's all they've tested so far. The PEZ dispenser, that is this thing here in the middle. I'm going to try to... Give me a second. I got to refresh this real quick so that I can paint on the screen. This thing here is the payload dispenser. That thing was supposed to send the Starlink satellites that way out of this door here. This is me scribbling on the screen, but that's what was supposed to happen. It hasn't happened, so we can look forward to that on the next flight. We're going to have a nice milestone. But what we did see was a Starship going to engine cutoff, and it is in coast phase, and we're going to go for a re-entry. At this point is inevitable, so it is absolutely going to happen. We're going to see that in 18 minutes roughly from now on. The booster itself was either just starting its landing burn or very, very close to it. when we saw a bright fiery flash, meaning it likely had a RUD. It might have been engine related, it might have been related to anything else. They immediately lost telemetry, so I presume that the booster was lost. It was a reused booster, so again, keep that in mind. That was its second flight, and the first time ever a Super Heavy booster had a second flight. So this is all part of the test, and that's why they're doing it. It might have even been related to the steeper angle of attack that the booster was going through. Maybe it ripped something, and they were testing how large is the envelope? How much can we push it? That's what this booster landing was about, and they pushed it far enough for it to go off. I am very, very happy right now that Ship 35 is in space, and I'm pretty sure you are as well. This is crazy. I died 3 or 4 times during this ascent. We're in space. The deploy sadly didn't work, but we got some beautiful views of the inside of the payload bay, which was amazing to see. And next up, we're going to go for the engine relight, which is, I think, at 38 minutes, if I'm not completely wrong. Let me just see. 37 and 49, 37 minutes and 49 seconds. Maybe we can get the... is that the flight timeline or the launch timeline? There you go, the in-flight events. You can see at 37...
Ja, over 37 minuten...
ballistic trajectory, so it's not on an orbital trajectory, and that is because things like the Raptor in space relight might not work, and that's why SpaceX doesn't want to send it on an orbital trajectory yet. Anybody who says they can't go to orbit is wrong. They could have just burned the engines for 30 seconds or a minute longer, and they would have been in space. They don't want that. They stay on a ballistic trajectory, which will lead them across the planet to a splashdown zone. We're going to see the Raptor in space relight demo at 37:49, which is exactly the test for that. Once they've done this often enough, they're going to decide to stay in orbit and do a full circumvention of the planet, but they're not doing that yet. And you can see why. The payload deployment failed as well. They are testing things. This is a thriller that is hard to top. I'm pretty sure you saw it the same way. I cannot wait to see the Starship re-entry now. I'm going to take a short 5-minute break. So, Jonathan, if you can take over for a moment. I need to go to the bathroom again, actually. And I need to cool down for a moment. Jonathan, take over 5 minutes if you can. And I'll be right back. I suggest you...
Nou, dan nemen wij het over. Felix moet naar het toilet. Laten we hopen dat de beelden daar... ja, jammer dat dummy-satelliet is niet... de meeste... jammer dat die dummy-satellieten niet gelukt is. Dus, maar waarom ze nou helemaal geen beelden meer hebben, heel apart. Alle beelden die we net zagen worden met via de Starlink-satellieten. Ja, dat ziet er wel apart uit. Ik zie hier Space is Fake, Michel staan in ja, dat... daar lijkt het nu in één keer wel op, maar... nee, ik geloof niet dat Space Fake is, anders gaan ze er niet zoveel energie in stoppen. En al deze mensen die geloven allemaal waarin ze mee bezig zijn. Dus. Waarom zouden ze dat doen als het allemaal nep is? Nou krijgen we verbindingsproblemen met What About It. Laten we even kijken waarom. Zetten we hem pauze. Nou, hij loopt een beetje vast. Dan zetten we even de SNR even aan. Ja, laten we misschien even teruggaan naar... als er toch geen beelden zijn, laten we teruggaan naar de launch.
Space
just
Center's
change
Launch
the tab
Complex
here.
39A, and we're hoping to
All
bring
right, I'm
that
back
online
live.
later this year as well.
But
Tons of progress with Starship so far in 2025, and lots of incredible milestones still coming up.
I am back.
And we
I
are
see
still on
that.
track to lift
Thank you
off
for
tonight
staying with
at
us.
6:30 p.m. Central Time, and right now, it's time to say hi to Chris, who's over there repping the West Coast Ops
All right,
today.
give us a
How's it going,
second. We're
Chris?
working on some technical
These are our
difficulties. I
models.
think you can already
Now,
see
we're
me
hoping
again,
to
which is
fly the
great.
next generation of
We're
super
working
heavy
on it.
boosters at even higher angles of attack. So this test today will give us a better idea of what is feasible. Now, on top of all of this, we're going to see how resilient Super Heavy is to engine failures at the most critical times.
Yeah, we're going to intentionally disable one of those 3 center engines and instead use an engine from the middle ring that's kind of right behind it. Those center engines are what we nominally use at the very last part of a landing burn. You're just kind of fine-tuning the booster's path into those waiting chopstick arms.
We have the ability to recycle, as we mentioned earlier, back to T-minus 40 seconds.
Hier zijn we bij de 40 seconden stop. Even kijken.
And if you're just joining us, we did initially hold cycled before we got to T-minus.
Please. Right away.
40 seconds.
Hier blijft hij even hangen, waarschijnlijk door wat technische problemen.
Don't be shy.
Dat heeft even geduurd.
Set every.
Mar.
That quick disconnect to the ship.
Terug bij de
There is a chance that automation will kick us out again if we encounter the same issue. But for now, the clock is rolling.
We're going to see if we get water deluge. Oh, water deluge is going. So here we go. I see engine ignition. We do have motion. It is lifted off. Here we go. Flight 9. First reuse of a booster engine. B-14 flying for the second time in only 5 months. This is the third flight in 2025. The third test of the Starship Upper Stage version 2. There's that rumble. I can feel it in my chest. Look at that. Oh, yes. Yes. Okay. So we are looking really good. It's a beautiful day for a launch. This is going to be a fantastic view, and it's about to get loud for me, folks. Only 5 miles away, 8 kilometers, and things are shaking. This is when it gets fun. Let's hear for our tracking team out there, making good use of all of our 4K views. Looking up at those 33 Raptor engines. I see all 33 looking fantastic. It is shaking here, baby. Shake and bake. Flight number 9. Oh, and the percussive sound. Oh, I love that. I love that. Thank you. I needed this. All right, let's go. Let's listen to the SpaceX here and make sure we're not missing any of the important call-outs.
Aerodynamic pressure, then only about a minute and a half until we get into hot staging.
Wow, Dan, that was incredible. We could feel the building shaking here, feel the vehicle's power. Now we're just about a minute away from shutting down those engines on the booster. Again, this booster is flying for its second time today.
It's still looking good.
All right, so hot staging coming up a little under a minute. We're going to see all but the 3 center engines turn off on the booster. So our version of MECO, most engines cut off. And then just a few seconds later, hoping to see 6 engines ignite on ship.
So I'm going to be ahead of the SpaceX stream as far as my audio callouts. So sorry if it's a little bit confusing, but I'm waiting to see that those engines shut down.
All right, hot staging, about 30 seconds.
Should be any second for me now. Pretty bright. I might need to look at our own cameras.
And definitely keep an eye on which way the booster flips. First ever directional flip we're going for today should flip straight up.
Saw hot staging. Don't see any other explosions. That's looking good for a booster boost back burn. Come on,
those engines
ship
powering
2,
down?
please do your thing.
Booster engine cutoff.
Please do your thing. Ship 2, we need this.
Ship ignition. Stage separation.
Booster is ook niet helemaal goed teruggekomen.
Incredible flip by Super Heavy booster, and you can see those 6 engines, those 3 engines on the ship ignited.
Wow, I can still see it really
6
good here.
healthy Raptors running on ship, on its way to space. Peek that engine view. Booster doing the boost back. Chris, how's it looking over there in Hawthorne, man?
It is looking...
chamber pressure is nominal.
It is looking absolutely incredible here in Hawthorne. As we said, 6 healthy engines on ship. We've got 13 out of 13 engines on the booster. Now down to those 3, which is what we expect in the final moments of the boost back burn. Now, as a reminder, we are not recovering the Super Heavy booster today. We are instead going to do some...
shutdown.
And there we had a good shutdown of the boost back burn. Next up will be the jettison of that hot stage ring.
Ship avionics, power and telemetry nominal.
Oh, I was looking at
great call out there that everything looking nominal aboard the Super Heavy vehicle, which is returning to Earth, and we're going to be doing some experiments with it, including a higher angle of attack re-entry, as well as some engine tests as it gets closer to the Gulf. We are, again, because of these tests not recovering it, we are sending it to the Gulf on purpose to do those tests. But again, you see the booster on the left-hand side of your screen. You see ship with 6 healthy engines continuing its ascent to its planned suborbital trajectory. Everything going very well so far for Starship's 9th flight. Now 4 minutes, 15 seconds in. Great views from inside of the aft engine area of ship there, looking at those 3 sea level and 3 Raptor engines on the right-hand side of your screen. The booster doing its LOX dump, that liquid oxygen dump. So because we don't need some of that liquid oxygen propellant in its tanks, we vent that propellant out to lessen the booster's mass as it comes in for its landing.
Rechts zijn de beelden van Everyday
Just
Astronaut.
absolutely gorgeous views watching these 2 vehicles do their respective things in the skies over Texas here today. And Dan, we're approaching the 5-minute mark into the flight. Super Heavy is descending rapidly. What can we expect here in the next few minutes as it does its atmospheric tests?
Everyday Astronaut heeft ook zijn eigen camera's, dus misschien
now as we had talked about, Super Heavy might not have a very smooth ride down. We're going to be putting it through this higher angle of attack. So we're kind of pitching it up a tiny bit, increasing drag. We've done this in wind tunnels. We've done this in computer modeling. It shows that sometimes the control isn't great, but only one way to really prove it out, and that's to get real-world data. So here comes Super Heavy.
Where did it go? I lost it.
It should be igniting for its landing burn in just about 40 seconds from now.
And we are going to relight 13 engines, then bring that down to 3 engines. As we talked about earlier, we will be intentionally shutting down. We will be shutting down one of those 3 center engines intentionally to push the limits of the Super Heavy booster.
Ship Raptor, chamber pressure is nominal.
And continuing to see 6 healthy engines on the ship.
Yes, ship's still looking
3
good, guys.
sea level and 3 vacuum engines still ignited as the Super Heavy booster is making its way back down to Earth.
We can see those grid fins doing some heavy work.
Landing burn gaat niet helemaal goed.
Ignited for our landing burn.
That might have looked like a boomy boom, maybe. I don't think booster survived.
It may have ended with that landing burn.
Ship still, though. Ship's still chugging along, guys.
Does look like we lost telemetry from the booster once we started into that landing burn. Did you hear confirmation that the booster did demise?
That's why they pushed it to the limits.
So the booster's flight ending before it was able to get through landing burn. But again, we are not bringing that back. We were expecting it to make a hard splashdown in the Gulf. We were getting live data back the entire time through that high angle of attack flight. So that was something that was really vital for us to get during this reuse. First free flight of booster in the books.
Oh, just heard the sonic boom.
All right, ship has about 2 minutes left.
Oké. We zetten deze weer even op pauze. Dan gaan we naar de live footage van Everyday Astronaut.
The gas reaction system. And believe it or not, and I've said this multiple times, when I initially said that to Elon, I said, but that's just for the booster, right? It's because I actually thought it was a bad idea. And I'm not saying that like, oh, look, he's feeling it. Like nothing at all. Literally, I just was not convinced that that's a good idea. I thought there were better ways that you could do like a bipropellant system still, where you could do a hot gas thruster, where you wouldn't be reliant on all this. And I kind of, pushed back and I was like, well, it just seems weird. And basically he's like, well, if you think about it, we have so much volume that's unusual. No other vehicle gets into orbit with all this extra volume of ullage gas. So the gas that's built up in the pressure in the tanks. And it doesn't actually take much of that to be your reaction control system. And so it's free. It's literally, in the terms of like being able to have a reaction system, it's free. So if you can get it to work, it's brilliant. And they did get it to work. Flight 4, 5, and 6 all had...
Even terug naar Felix.
On the ship. This is also what led to that loss of attitude control. So at this point, we are kind of in a spin. And history of Starship, something similar happened, different cause, but same symptom back on Flight 3, where we weren't able to maintain attitude control in orbit. And so we're going to skip the relight of that Raptor engine while we're in space. We are going to still proceed with entry. But as we are not able to control the attitude of the ship, as we get into entry, it will enter in whatever orientation it is in at the time, which does not bode well for the ship's heat shield, as we're not going to be essentially aligned the way that we want to do for reentry. So it is definitely coming down. It is definitely heading to the Indian Ocean, but our chances of making it all the way down are pretty slim. So we'll still get as much data as we can. We're still getting live telemetry, live views from Starlink the entire time, and we'll continue to stick with ship as it continues on. We are about 10 minutes away or so until we start getting into entry, and the light will start to pick up as we cross the Indian Ocean, and we'll start to see a little bit more daylight, and we'll, as always, as long as we maintain that comm link, get some plasma on the way in and start to bring the Starship back through the Earth's atmosphere. So that coming up in about 10 minutes or so. So we'll check back in with everybody in a little bit.
What about it? Even kijken wat every astronaut te zeggen heeft.
Is going to be not fun. And let's get one from Tri Celsius. Nice to finally be a member on your channel. I'm an SLS electrical flight processes engineer. If you had to guess, how would re-entry software models for Earth work for Mars entry? When the atmosphere is thinner. Thank you so much for hanging out. I really appreciate you saying hi, and I appreciate your super chat. So how would re-entry software models for Earth work for Mars entry? So literally, this actually right now, this region here, 100 kilometers down to 80 kilometers in altitude or so, just by the numbers, it pretty well lines up with Mars, so you can still get valuable flight data of what it would be like, what it is like when you're flying through Mars.
Okay, now what about it? Die heeft niet zo heel veel te zeggen, zo te zien. We hebben er nog één. NSF.
The Dragon capsule made it all the way to the ocean and impacted on the ocean. And I don't know if it's true or not, but I have heard tell years and years and years ago that there was somebody on console trying to like push an update to Dragon or something and get the parachutes to deploy. That could be completely apocryphal. I could be making that up. But
look at that.
The point is they're going to try until they can't try anymore.
More plasma.
Wow.
That plasma?
I'm gonna guess
that seems to be a bit on the wrong side of the vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looks like it's coming in sideways.
Roll 35. Yeah, I believe
based on Flight 3, what we saw.
I think it's going to weg.
With Ship 28 tumbling, I'm not expecting this one to recover.
Yeah. Well, they have to overcompensate for the tumble and then stabilize. I could see the fin stabilizing, but overcoming
you can see
a roll.
The camera feed getting affected by the plasma.
That's wild.
Excitement was guaranteed. That's
oh,
where
look
we
at
are.
that! It's like a party inside of the payload of the engine bay.
I will give them credit to show this.
Yeah. A lot of launch providers, if not all of them, would have cut the feed by now. Okay. Like minutes ago.
I think this.
As long as they have Starlink, we'll see what happens.
I will celebrate every minute I see of this.
Yeah, I mean, what I mean by other, basically when the ship started tumbling, as soon as something was obviously not nominal, that is traditionally when you lose
we had lost attitude control of the ship and entered into a spin. The team made the call to do what's called passivate the vehicle, so we're essentially venting all of the remaining propellant overboard, and it's going to make an uncontrolled reentry. Important to note, this is a contingency that is planned for, and we clear the zones in the Indian Ocean where these entries could take place. So we're not going to come down exactly where we would have had nothing happened, but we do clear a tremendous amount of space out in the Indian Ocean in the event that we run into this. We understand that there are always risks, essentially, with these flight tests, with the hardware, but we don't really accept any compromise when it comes to protecting people.
And it is one thing to note is we will actually still re-enter in our planned airspace zone, which is good. That is exactly what we planned for. We do plan for if something does go a little bit off nominal, that we have enough airspace cleared out for situations just like this.
Yeah, re-entry is still just that really critical phase that we need to try and gather as much data, as much information as possible. Is a fully reusable heat shield has never been flown before, the history of space flight, and that's something that Starship still has to crack. And so we had a whole range of experiments on this one at this point, and we just started to lose some of our cameras, so it's very possible that we'll start to lose contact with Starship a lot sooner than we would have if it was a nominal reentry. So we are expecting it to break up essentially on its reentry over the Indian Ocean. So not able to do a lot of our on-orbit objectives today, but just the fact that we, got it into space was just a really big moment for a lot of the team.
Yeah, and another thing to note is that Super Heavy did fly for its second flight today. It first flew on Flight 7, and it made it all the way to our shutdown of all the engines and stage separation, getting ship into its suborbital trajectory today. It did ignite its 13 engines, but it did demise at that point. We did plan to fly it back down to Earth at a higher angle of attack, and we do expect it to stress the vehicle a lot more than what we've seen previously. So it's not unexpected that we did lose the booster before we got to the actual landing.
Yeah. So we're gonna continue to hang out and our on-orbit objectives today.
Engines, but it did demise at that point. We did plan to fly it back down to Earth at a higher angle of attack, and we do expect it to stress the vehicle a lot more than what we've seen previously. So it's not unexpected that we did lose the booster before we got to the actual landing.
Yeah, it has to catch up.
So we're gonna continue to hang out and see if we get any updates on ship. It does look like we might be getting some video back soon. There we go.
Komt toch beeld terug.
So this is a view essentially on the top part of Starship. You're looking up at the payload bay and towards the nose cone. So views are going to be a little bit scarce potentially, as again we are in essentially a tumble. We have lost that attitude control. So Starlink, when it's able to connect, able to feed this down. We
I think we might have lost them.
To this phase.
Toch zijn er beelden.
And with the views that we are.
I think that's breaking up now. Oh
Okay,
man, there
We
you go.
expect the
That's-
vehicle to see about 1400 degrees Celsius, and there you can see the flap feeling that temperature there, a little bit melting away. But as we expected with the spinning of the vehicle, we are no longer controlling the attitude of the vehicle. So this is now, at this point in the test flight, it is expected to see it begin to demise a little bit on its way back down to Earth.
Yeah, and so we'll stick with it for as long as we're kind of getting any reach back from the ship as it starts to make this re-entry.
Ja, nou dat was het wel een beetje, denk ik.
Yeah, so it's re-entering actively right now. And again, we did do what's called passivation, so you essentially vent all of your excess propellant overboard before you hit the atmosphere. That's a safety measure we can take on the ship while you still have contact with it. So that was done. It's now coming down in the predetermined hazard area that was cleared ahead of flight. Not controlled, so we're not going to get all of that re-entry data that we're still really looking forward to. This is kind of a new generation of ship. It has different flaps, improved heat shield, a whole lot of things that we're really trying to really put through the ringer, as there's a whole lot we still need to learn before we get to kind of the next step that we're hoping for, which is going to be that ship going orbital and eventually coming back here for a catch. So getting through one of these fully is going to be really important. It's not going to be today, but we are just going to stick with the ship, see what else we can learn as it makes its way through the atmosphere and brings an end to the 9th flight test. So we'll stick with it.
This is actually what I love about SpaceX is they share what they can. When they have videos that no one else has ever produced in the entire world, they're sharing it with us. And the fact that they can even get that video down while it's tumbling, scorching through the atmosphere, I mean, the upper atmosphere, that is unbelievable. Telemetry officially gone. I mean, and reminder, this is not just falling. Yes, it's uncontrolled, but again, its trajectory was on target. So as soon as those engines cut off, there's pretty much nothing you can do to change where it's going to re-enter. So it's re-entering in its pre-planned re-entry corridor, which is in the Indian Ocean. That's why the reason they make it a big re-entry corridor, in case something goes wrong, it might fall short, in case something, if it breaks up at this altitude, whatever, you plan around that. You say, here's our exclusion zone. No matter what happens, if it makes it to, on this trajectory, it's going to all the debris will end up in this corridor. So that's pre-planned. There's no boats, there's no planes, there's no nothing there. And that's part of the safety culture of really aerospace in general. Every rocket launch has, well, except for some in China and some in Russia and stuff. Most rocket launches, let's listen in.
Its second flight, it first flew on Flight 9 and made its way to take ship all the way up to stage separation, doing its second flight ever, which is pretty incredible. We did lose the booster on the way back down, as we did fly it back down at a higher angle of attack. So as expected, we did have it demise on the way back down.
Yeah, we were able to get all the way to that landing burn, though. So we made it through that higher angle of attack. So a lot of great data that's going to help us improve those future booster flights.
Yeah, we did do the directional flip, and it worked.
Yep.
It was actually a great view that we saw. And then ship continued, 6 healthy Raptor engines in the beginning of its flight, making it all the way to SECO and coasting for quite a while. We made it to the expected time that we would open up the payload door. Unfortunately, the door did not open as we expected it to, so we did not deploy the 8 Starlink satellites.
Yeah, we ran into a couple of issues once ship got there, but I can tell you it was a pretty crazy moment for a lot of the people that were standing here for ship to make it there. It's been a couple of flights, but it was really exciting to see. Ran into some issues on orbit. We weren't able to deploy the Starlinks. We eventually lost attitude control, dealing with some propellant links inside of the ship. And we did lose attitude control. And just to confirm, we did lose contact with the ship officially a couple of minutes ago. So that brings an end to the 9th flight test. So still a lot of work to do, but really big moment. Chris, how's everybody doing over there in Hawthorne?
Zal dat ding te water gaan?
What's the vibes, man?
Of,
yeah, you know, I mean, it's a test program, and that's what we're here to do. We're here to learn, and that was definitely the vibe and the atmosphere here at Hawthorne. It would have been great to see ship get all the way through its objectives today, but with all of that data that came down through the Starlink system, we're definitely going to learn it, and we're definitely going to fix that and push forward. Also, great to see the responsible engineers here in mission control, talking with the flight control teams in Starbase. We talked about how it's great having that expert knowledge on console to be able to go to at a moment's notice, and that really helped us make the right decisions in orbit today when we decided to passivate the vehicle. So we will be here looking forward to Flight 10 and some success on future flights.
All right, well, obviously congratulations to everybody that poured so much time, effort into getting this rocket off the pad. The last 2 months have been an absolute gauntlet for a lot of people, and we're continuing to learn more about this ship, about this rocket. We are trying to do something that is impossibly hard, and it's not always you're not going to reach it in a straight line. We've said there's going to be bumps, there's going to be turns, but seeing that ship in space today was a hell of a moment for us. So congratulations to every single person who put time, effort, sweat, anything into that rocket.
Yeah, this is exactly the SpaceX way. We're going to learn, iterate, and iterate over and over again until we figure it out. So thank you to everybody for tuning in. Thank you for the fine people of Cameron County, including the residents of the newest city of Starbase, as well as the Coast Guard, Federal Aviation Administration, Government of Mexico, as well as the Australian Space Agency.
All right, now, this is not the end. We're going to have a whole bunch of cool liftoff stuff, so be sure to follow us on X at SpaceX for more, and we will see you back here for Flight 10. Thanks for tuning in.
Flight 10.
All right, so again, everyone, maybe a little effing chat to pay respects. Oh, definitely a bit of a bummer, but we have a gorgeous sunset here. This is live right after the launch here. It's a beautiful sunset. I'm excited to get our team fed tonight. That's going to be the thing that I'm looking forward to. I don't think we really... Yeah, we did. We had some lunch.
Thanks to everybody.
I don't know if we're going to talk tonight.
SpaceX,
there's that talk of the
what about it?
There's still being a presentation after the launch.
NSF,
I guess we'll probably at this point see how Elon's feeling. Maybe a little bit gun shy if there's a lot of work to do. So... But give a shout out to everyone. Shout out to, again, SpaceX for at least getting first booster reuse, first time for Ship 2 to make it through all the way through SECO. I do have to point out, this is actually following about the same trajectory as the first 3 flights of Ship 1, of the original first 3 Starship launches, where almost exactly, where we didn't get to SECO on flight 1 or 2, and by 3rd they got to SECO, but they lost control. I mean, it's verbatim, and before you knew it, by flight 4 they were getting some serious success. Flight 5 and 6 were awesome. So hopefully it's a similar path here. Again, gotta learn. They gotta push forward.
En dan ga ik even kijken of Felix nog wat te vertellen heeft. Felix is helemaal offline. Ik heb ook niet zoveel meer te zeggen gehad. Maar what about it? Nee, is hij naar bed gegaan of zo? Goed. Allemaal zeer interessant. Ja, hier moeten we het dan toch maar mee gaan afsluiten, denk ik. Waren mooie beelden. Ja. Ik ga ook nou weer mijn bed in. Ik dank jullie allemaal voor het kijken. Mijn hoogste punt waren 2 kijkers. Dat is wel een groot verschil met die andere zenders waar 50, 60.000. Hoeveel staat er bij FDS net ook op 50.000. Worden bouwd het nu nog maar de 300. Ja, het is afgelopen. Niet helemaal volgens plan. Maar dat was ook niet helemaal het idee wat wij... Maar ja, we hadden toch wel een mooie re-entry. Of in ieder geval de beelden van... Ja, van de deployment of van de dummy-satellieten. Hebben we ook niet gezien. Wat we wel hebben gezien is een mooie lancering van een booster die al een keer met de vlucht 7 gebruikt is. Dus dat ging het begin ging goed, alleen de landing niet. Dus er zijn nogal wat punten voor verbetering. Ja, nou ja, dat zover de Starship. Ja, heb ik nog wat verder te vertellen? Ja, ik weet niet, er is genoeg te zeggen. Maar ik hou het even voor me nog. En ja. Ik vind het altijd wel interessant om... ik kan dit gewoon live zonder gezeur van patent kan ik dit uitzenden. Ik kan gewoon rechtstreeks de beelden van SpaceX gebruiken. Zonder patentrechten. Ja, dat waardeer ik wel. Dus ja, iedereen bedankt daarvoor ook. Ook Everyday Astronaut, daar pak ik wat beelden van. En van What About It van Felix pak ik ook altijd wel... Dus dat kan ik allemaal gratis doen, dus doe het graag. Het zou een legendarische dag kunnen zijn. Ja, sowieso dat er 1 booster hergebruikt is. Dat ging ook niet helemaal goed. Maar ja, het gaat allemaal niet helemaal goed. Maar ik geloof wel dat er genoeg data vandaag weer binnengekomen is om er wat beter aan te doen. Ja, wat ik nog meer wil doen. Ja, ik wil ook... nog wat films. Ik ben ook helemaal in de free party movement tegenwoordig. En daar wil ik binnenkort ook een uitzending voor maken. Van hoe de free party movement is ontstaan. De Spiral Tribe. En daar zijn ook genoeg video's van. Ja, dat zijn feesten die gratis worden georganiseerd zonder enkele soort anarchistische... iedereen is daar zelf bij. Daar wil ik nog wel wat over gaan uitzenden. Maar dat is een ander verhaal. Ja, ik kan ook nog wel wat gaan zeggen over Russische oorlog in Oekraïne. Waar Trump zei snel kunnen op te lossen, wat ook niet gelukt is. We kunnen natuurlijk ook over AI wat dingen gaan zeggen. We kunnen dingen gaan zeggen wat er allemaal fout gaat in Europa. Ja, genoeg om over te praten. Maar ja, laten we het hier even bij houden vandaag. En ik wacht gewoon mijn moment af. Dus nou ja, bedankt voor het kijken. En ik ga lekker mijn bed weer in. Ja, tot de volgende. En ja, welterusten. En tot de volgende.
QS 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5...